Welcome to Amazing Stories Long Play Edition. I am your host. The chameleon and I will be using this voice to tell this story. If you're just relaxing around the house or driving a car, this long play edition is just for you. Please enjoy my tale of chasing shadows. Chapter 1. The chase begins. Detective Mark Reynolds had spent a decade chasing one man, Vincent Lark, whose crimes spanned heists, cons, and elaborate scams across New York City. Lark was more than a criminal. He was a ghost who evaded capture with almost supernatural precision, slipping through the cracks of every trap law enforcement set. Each crime was a masterstroke, meticulously planned and daringly executed, leaving behind stunned victims and a frustrated police force. Mark had made it his mission to stop Lark, dedicating his life to deciphering the clues left in the aftermath of each crime. Hours turned into days, and days into years, as Mark pored over case files, connecting patterns that painted a vivid yet incomplete picture of his elusive foe. The city had become his chessboard, with Lark as his cunning opponent, always a move ahead. Despite his growing exhaustion, Mark's resolve never wavered. Every failure only fueled his obsession to bring Lark to justice. On nights when he should have been sleeping, he found himself staring at maps, rewatching surveillance footage, and replaying every failed attempt to corner the criminal. For Mark, this wasn't just about catching Lark. It was about proving that no one could outsmart the law. One cold evening, Mark stood at the scene of Lark's latest crime, an audacious heist that left the city reeling. A prestigious art gallery had been robbed during its most glamorous charity gala, with priceless works of art stolen under the noses of New York's elite. Mark's eyes scanned the empty frame on the wall where a Van Gogh masterpiece had once hung, now replaced by nothing but mocking silence. The chaos of the aftermath had dissipated, leaving behind an eerie stillness that magnified the enormity of the theft. Mark crouched to examine the floor, his gloved hands brushing away fragments of broken glass as he studied the scene with meticulous care. His team had swept the area for evidence, but Lark's meticulous planning left little to find, as always. Still, Mark refused to give in to frustration. Knowing that even the most perfect crime had its flaws, he took a deep breath, pushing aside the familiar pang of failure, and focused on the details, determined to uncover the one clue Lark might have overlooked. As he straightened, his eyes narrowed, spotting a faint scuff mark near the exit, its angle and size suggesting hurried movement. It wasn't much, but to Mark, it was a glimmer of hope. The weight of the case bore down on Mark as he returned to the precinct, carrying with him the burden of expectation from both his team and the city he swore to protect. In the bustling squad room, officers worked tirelessly, their conversations of mixed theories and speculation about how Lark had pulled off his latest stunt. Mark's desk was a chaotic landscape of papers, photographs, and notes, the cumulative result of years spent chasing a man who seemed almost untouchable. He sank into his chair, grabbing a mug of coffee gone cold, and stared at the corkboard pinned with maps and faces that marked Lark's criminal empire. The heist had been bold, even for Lark, and it was clear he thrived on the thrill of humiliating law enforcement. Mark's eyes lingered on a photograph of the stolen painting, its vibrant colors mocking him with their absence. He felt the familiar ache of exhaustion creep in, but he pushed it aside, knowing that every second spent analyzing the case brought him closer to understanding Lark's methods. If there was one thing he knew, it was that Lark's arrogance would be his undoing. Mark's mind raced with questions as he revisited the evidence, searching for connections that might reveal the mastermind's next move. Why had Lark chosen this particular gala? What message was he trying to send by targeting such a high-profile event? The audacity of the crime suggested a deeper motive, something more personal than mere financial gain. Mark had long suspected that Lark's crimes were more than just opportunistic. They were calculated, a way for the criminal to prove his superiority. As he flipped through photographs of the crime scene, a small but significant detail caught his eye. A glimmer of silver on the wrist of one of the masked figures captured in the security footage. Zooming in, he saw it was a cufflink, its unique design suggesting wealth and exclusivity. Mark's instincts flared, and a rush of adrenaline coursed through him. This was no ordinary accessory. It was custom-made, a potential lead in a case that had long seemed hopeless. The cufflink became Mark's focus as he worked late into the night, cross-referencing images and databases to identify its origins. It was a tedious process, but Mark's determination fueled his every move, pushing him through the monotony of dead ends and false leads. By dawn, he had traced the piece to a renowned jeweler who catered exclusively to New York's elite, a promising connection in a city filled with secrets. Mark knew that following this lead could open doors into the world of high society, where Lark often hid in plain sight. The thought filled him with a mix of excitement and trepidation, knowing that stepping into Lark's world meant playing by his rules. He couldn't afford to make mistakes, not when the stakes were this high. With renewed focus, Mark began crafting a plan to infiltrate the circles where Lark might be operating, determined to close the gap between them. Despite his progress, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that Lark was watching, always aware of the moves being made against him. It was a psychological game as much as a physical pursuit, and Mark knew his adversary thrived on the challenge. Every step closer felt like stepping into a trap, but Mark refused to let fear dictate his actions. He reminded himself of why he had started this journey in the first place: to bring justice to a man who had eluded it for too long. The weight of the years spent chasing Lark pressed heavily on his shoulders, but it was a burden he carried willingly. Mark knew that if he failed, Lark's reign of chaos would continue unchecked, leading more victims in its wake. This wasn't just about winning a game. It was about restoring order to a city that had grown weary of the shadows. If you enjoyed so far, please leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. The Chameleon will drop a new chapter every week. Same time and same place. Goodbye for now, you little critters.